All right. Hello. I am Effie Field. I am interviewing,
Jaden Henry.
and I have permission to record you. Do I, Jaden Henry?
Yes.
Okay. I'll start off broad. What does home mean to you? Is it a place, a craft, or a state of being?
Hmm. I honestly think home for me is just like the people I'm surrounded by, which is kind of a corny answer, but like obviously like Ken Island's my home because that's like where I reside, but like anywhere where there's people that I can like depend on, that's like home.
Very intellectual. How has this changed over your life?
I think it changed from just being a place because of like moving so much when I was a kid to actually being a group of people because I don't know, me and my family didn't like it's not the same as having friends, you know what I mean?
Yes. Interesting. How is the relationship different between your family and your friends, and why does being with your friends make you feel more at home?
I think that like it took a while for like my brain to like develop and
Mhm.
like also understand like the importance of like having people in, your life and like not everybody has a family and not everybody gets that like luxury. Um, I guess like just not getting along with my family when I was younger to like now being older and old enough to like understand
Mhm.
what my family is saying when I'm talking to them, plus a mixture of like, having like more solidified friendships.
Mhm.
I think just my brain developing.
Yeah, so home is not only a place, but also the relationships you have with other people.
Yeah.
What type of culture do you believe you belong to? It could be like inherited culture, the culture of your family, or just the culture of living in Kent Island, as you said.
I don't really know if there is like culture is really relative and I think that we practice it without even like realizing
Mhm.
it. Um, I don't think I picked anything up from Ken Island. Maybe, but I feel like the culture I belong in is more of like an online thing.
Mhm.
As you know, I think a lot of kids who stay inside a lot and don't have like sidewalks to go to other places just spend time on their phone, and I think they develop like a culture like in the on the internet,
Right.
which translates to real life, especially after I think COVID. I think a lot of like uh people who started becoming like alternative and
Mhm.
stayed alternative started to go to hardcore scenes like
Right.
in hardcore shows and that created like it recreated a culture that was already there before.
Mhm. Oh, sorry, my phone turned off. Do you think you identify more? Oh, sorry. Do you think you identify more with the culture of the place you grew up in, or the place that you live now, in terms of like home and home equaling culture, if that makes sense?
I think I still they're very separate to me. I still consider Canal my home as a like logical standpoint. Like that's where I'm from, that's where I grew up, that's
Hmm.
where my family is from, that's where we all reside. But in terms of like Baltimore, like that's more of my people. I wouldn't necessarily call it like it feels like home to me.
Hmm.
Because the people are still very like kind of foreign to me.
Yeah.
But I still do feel very connected and like happy around people who celebrate the same subculture as me,
Hmm.
but I don't know if that necessarily like feels like home.
Do you think you're creating your own culture by being in these subcultures and being around, because you go to an art school, do you think
Yeah.
you're creating your own type of culture that's affecting other people? You've always been kind of like unique in that sense, where like you had that effect on me. Do you
Yeah.
think you're kind of creating your own culture and your own traditions through the way that you're behaving and the way that you're making these places your home?
I don't know. I feel like I show up to art school, I dress the way I do, and I talk to the people I do. I don't really know how others perceive me, but I know that they see me and they know my name, and I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, that's kind of scary.
Hmm.
I think I don't know. It's hard to create a culture at Micah and in the hardcore scene because we're already out of high school. It's more of like we know who we are, but we're trying to like form and become an adult. But there's a lot of like weird. I think like I can't tell if it's like social anxieties or if it's like just thinking that people won't like them, but there's just like not a lot of like melding that happens.
Hmm.
And I'd be surprised because I'm surprised more people like don't really dress up at art school, and I'm surprised that like so many people in the hardcore scene are so clicky. But then I think about how the culture of like their high school and American high school as a whole, and like how all of us were who were probably queer and neurodiverse, like nobody in the hardcore scene and nobody at Micah was popular in high school, and that creates like kind of a weird hostile like space between hardcore people and like even at Micah. So I really do have to find these like groups and pockets of people who are not insecure about themselves in a way that affects others. And I don't know. It comes around to like I'm just with people that I choose to be around,
Hmm.
but I am a part of this small school that, we don't know each other, but we're part of the same culture. I don't know.
Do you think Micah in itself is a culture?
Yes, but it's kind of like I feel like if I went to any other art school, like obviously there would be different people and it'd be in a
Hmm.
different place, but the same archetypes would be strong
Right.
because of also how the internet has like you can be a part of a culture that you are not physically like close to, like in physical distance. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you don't have to be physically close in a distance to other people to create a culture now. That is online, and I think that like I don't know. There have been high school archetypes since like the 80s, so maybe that's just because of like how media affects us and how like we view other people's like personalities like through a screen, and then we adopt that, and then we become a part of a subculture that's not really a tangible subculture. You know what I mean?
How's that affected your life?
I feel like it's affected my life because it's made me a little bit like judgy and avoidant of like going around other
Hmm.
people because I don't know, the biggest crime you could do to me is like be ingenuine, and I
Hmm.
don't know, I feel like there's a lot of like ingenuineness. I don't know, it makes me feel like
How does
avoidant.
sorry, how does that affect your craft as a whole?
I think that like it it does and it doesn't. I used to grow up like on the art side of Instagram where I would like constantly compare myself to other artists.
Hmm.
But going to art school, like I stopped. I didn't do that. I didn't do that after I was like in middle school. But I noticed like some people have not stopped doing that. So I don't know. I try to make my art because I think it's very cool. But I know that there's a lot of people I know who become friends with artists, and it's not because of like their coolness. It's like a connection thing. And
Hmm.
I was literally talking about this yesterday. Like it affects my craft because I feel like um I just don't want to be friends with a lot of people at Micah.
Hmm.
If I know that they're bad people, I've heard them do bad things, but I'm surprised that like people wanting to be friends with them even though they do bad things. So it kind of like makes me keep to myself,
Hmm.
and I don't want to like compare or like be unhumble about art, but like I just want to make the art I make. And I've noticed like a lot more recently as I've like really been trying my craft and really been like trying harder and harder to push myself that I've been getting attention from groups of people who I've adamantly wanted to avoid
Hmm.
because of the way they act. And I don't know, it just makes me scared.
Right. Do you think in the uncertainty that is Micah's subcultures and all that, you start seeing refuge in your craft, and that your craft itself is becoming more of a home than Micah itself?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can attest to that. I feel like honestly, it's kind of like theater, how theater was in high school
Hmm.
for us. Uh, theater was one big home for us, but it was actually the smaller, more niche
Right.
technical tech group that I became actually good friends with, and had no problems with because as a whole, like theater kids in general, there's a lot of like weird, like I mean, everybody's like insecure. There's bad apples everywhere, but like there's a bigger group of people. There's going to be more bad apples. I feel like my printmaking department and the departments I've chose to major in are very close knit like people at Micah.
Hmm.
And I think that's a good example of like these pocket subcultures that happen because of like different crafts. Um, I don't know. What was the question again?
Oh, how between Micah, like, what about Micah? Sorry, I like,
It's okay.
um, do you think your craft is more of a home than Micah itself?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting back to. Is like if if anywhere does feel like a home for me, it's probably the printmaking building and the people in printmaking because I don't know what it is about our major, but we're very nosy people and we're not afraid to like go up to people while they're working on their prints and asking them like, "Hey, what are you working on?" And And I know that's not like the graphic design department or the painting department's not like that,
Hmm.
or like the illustration department's a little bit more cutthroat because it's not, people are working on their iPads, like they're not like out rolling
Right.
ink and running their art through presses, and you're not walking by and seeing what they're working on.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that like in
You
that big group of Micah, like of
right.
course there's these bad apples, but it's like really that technical niche like group that I
Right.
found that like
There's a community and
it's there's a community in our craft and there's a community in that in literal space.
yeah, so you don't find Micah itself a home, you find home in the community and you find culture in the community you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with
How
that.
do you think community has changed between going from high school to college? Do you think there's any stark differences?
I think just because of like where we grew up compared to a lot of
Hmm.
other people at Micah, I don't know. My roommate constantly gets so upset about how she hadn't learned like anything in high school. But me and her came from high schools where they didn't have a good art program and
Hmm.
it was one art teacher for like 4 years. Um and it was just like, obviously Ken Island is a different place and North Carolina is a different place than like inner city Baltimore with a lot of these kids who had went to magnet art programs or art high schools. Uh there really wasn't a community at Ken Island. It's not because it's like it was the same people as Micah. It's just like our interests were so broadly different that like
Hmm.
we couldn't even talk to each other like at all. And I was only seeking refuge in like a very small group of people, aka like most of the theater kids and then like some art kids. Literally, it was not. I don't know. It wasn't not a safe space. I feel like.
Hmm. Do you think Micah has become more of a safe space or the
Oh yeah, Baltimore in general, I think is more of a safe space than whatever. If you just go outside of Baltimore, if you go to Annapolis or Ken Island, like nobody cares about the way I look in Baltimore, but I feel like people care about the way I look like on Ken Island and Annapolis. And there was a stark difference, and I can tell like my style has even changed because I'm
Hmm.
more like comfortable at Micah,
right?
uh, than I am. I don't know, at high school. I feel like when I was dressing like pastel, I don't know, people were calling me emo. Anyways, and I was just like, huh, I don't know. Now I'm just gonna stay with my group of friends, and I don't know. I never really branched out,
Right.
and I don't really regret it either. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna ask one more reflection question to kind of wrap up the interview, if that's okay with you.
mhm.
As we've spoke, you've learned a lot about yourself through community. Do you feel like there's less? Do you feel like you are burdened by the need to perform around certain cultures and stuff like that? Like need to feel like you have to be fit into these specific types of subcultures and cultures in general to kind of have a definition of home?
um, me personally, maybe when I was a teenager, yes, but no, just because I've noticed other people having to do that, and like I've heard horror stories of like I don't know, my friend at Pratt, I've heard horror stories of just like the alternative clickiness, and like
Hmm.
I even noticed people like that at Micah, like these people who dress really well. I see them. They spend all this time like window shopping, like to curate the perfect outfits. They want to create like a click with me, and I just feel like ingenuine and kind of like on edge around those
Hmm.
type of people because I'm first of all I don't really know who you are personal wise. I don't know how you are as a person. You just want to be friends with me because of the way you look. That's kind of scary. I don't feel the need to perform as much as I used to per se. I think now it's more like okay, like I want to be authentically me. I
Hmm.
still want to dress the way I do. Maybe I feel pressured to like look good and like, look like I have my life together at art school, but I think that's like kind of where it ends now. I don't really go out of my way to like, I don't know, um judge people for that. I think as long as you're, genuine about it and you're into genuine things and you care about the world, like I don't have a problem with how you dress, how you look, how you present yourself, as long as you're a genuine person.
Right.
Um and some people I don't think they've grasped that yet. I don't think they've realize they can do that. So I've been seeing a lot of the people like put themselves into boxes of like goth or boxes of like punk, and I'm just like, guys, you don't need to be like that. You don't need to be like that.
Hmm.
You can be free. You can do whatever you want. Just be nice.
Amen. Well, thank you, Jaden Henry. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yay.